So let's talk about specific social factors, specifically work and family. We see that a person with chronic illness or disability is going to interact differently with work than somebody that does not have a chronic illness or disability, more often than not. But again, it depends on what the illness is, what their symptoms are, and how it's managed or not managed, again. They might, for example, require more time off to attend medical appointments. I've also seen people who are let go from their jobs because they've taken too many days off of work and they've run out of FMLA time, and that's the result of their illness symptoms. We also see that as a result, individuals with chronic illness and disability might really struggle to find and maintain suitable employment that is flexible to their healthcare needs. And this can take a costly toll on the individual, for example, literally costly loss of medical insurance, but also because of our career, especially in the U.S., playing such a major role in our lives, it can negatively impact the individual's self-image as making a positive contribution to society, or at a more personal level, a contribution to their family. So let's talk about now family. Family, in this case, this is recognizing that chronic illness and disability not only affects the individual, but also his or her family as well. And your textbook goes into the resiliency model in particular. And so the resiliency model breaks down family and social interactions into chronic illness as stressors, family resources, family appraisal, and family coping. We'll go over each pieces. So, chronic illness as a stressor leading to family crisis. This takes into consideration 6 main factors. So, for example, how chronic illness and disability strain the family unit over time. Literally, how financial strain due to costly medical bills can impact the family. Second, it looks at normative family transitions that may be additional sources of stress. So not only dealing with the chronic illness stressors, but other typical stressors as well. For example, maybe a child going off to college. That's usually stressful for most families. Third, prior strains that have accumulated over time. So I'm talking about pre-physical and emotional functioning of family members prior to the new addition of a family illness or disability, which can impact their ability to cope. So for example, did mom or dad already have a depressive disorder prior to his or her daughter becoming disabled? We have to take into, fourth, situational demands and difficulties. One area where we often see this is the interaction between family members trying to navigate the healthcare system, or what happens when insurance coverage is denied for needed treatment. That can be a situational demand, and it can be a huge stressor for a lot of people in managing chronic illness and disability. Fifth, consequences of the family efforts to cope. So, for example, increases in codependency, children acting out because they don't understand the parent's illness, they don't know how else to cope with the parent's illness. And finally, we have to consider interfamily and social ambiguity. So this includes role changes in the family, which we've already sort of touched on. So for example, mom's always been the one to take care of everyone else, and now she's the one that needs the most care. How does the family navigate that? When we talk about family resources, these include the personal resources of each individual family member, so their own physical health, their own coping skills, for example. This includes the resources of the family system itself, how cohesive the family is, how easily are they able to flex to meet new demands, and then we're talking about community resources and support. So what kind of support is available to the entire family outside of the family unit? What other activities or outlets do these people have? Are you able to work if a loved one, like a child, is sick? We also have to think about family appraisal. This is when the family assesses the degree of controllability of the chronic illness or disability situation, how much change will be needed within the family system in terms of roles, and whether or not the family is going to be able to effectively respond to or cope with the situation. Family coping. This is going to include the process of acquiring, allocating, and using resources for meeting demands of management of chronic illness. In this process, they've identified 4 ways that facilitate familial adaptation to chronic illness or disability. First, the direct action to eliminate or reduce the number and intensity of demands of the chronic illness. Second, acquiring additional resources to help the family faced with chronic illness situation. Maybe this means bringing in a home care nurse, for example. Managing tensions is third, and managing tensions associated with ongoing strains resulting from chronic illness. And then fourth, family level appraisal to create, shape, and evaluate meetings. This is basically the family's cognitive restructuring of what this chronic illness means to them. Do they view it as a challenge? Do they view it as something to rise to, or do they view this as a barrier, an impediment that their family will never move past? So basically how the family interprets the chronic illness to make it more constructive, manageable, and acceptable. Essentially, the work the family does to normalize the experience for themselves, to explain to themselves why this chronic illness or disability is occurring within their family, and moving forward with it in an adaptable sort of way. Okay, so that's it for Chapter 4. Don't forget to look at Chapter 6. We're going to skip Chapter 5, but we're coming back to it very soon here in the future.